is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. Today is Wednesday. Wednesday, what date?
The 12th.
The 12th of June. It's after 11 o'clock. We were in debate. We were locked in debate about what is happening at BPL.
Man, listen, Mr. Newry.
Like everybody at Guardian just excited and what's going on?
I want you to know something. I sat down last night and transcribed. I can read all the headlines that I read last night and put together for today's show.
But before you go into that, right?
Yeah.
I
Labor. You still talking
mind
labor?
you, no, I don't really talk about labor. I don't even talk about labor because everything should be, the whole Bahamas should be concentrating on BPL now and what's happening, right? This is the news of the country. We need to be analyzing, interrogating, doing analysis of whether this is good, bad, or the other, congratulating or raising concerns, right? I'm concerned that my bill is going to go up, right? I understand what the government is intending to do. They have proclaimed and made it loud that there needs to be investment into BPL, that they don't have the money to invest, that they would need a strategic partner to partner with them. I know we've been having a number of conversations, right? Realize that bidding processes and conclusions have already been done.
Pause, because I'm not sure that even happened.
What do you mean you're not sure? 40% going out.
In these 12 pages of articles that I have in front of me, not including the papers, not including today's papers, right? These 12 pages of articles, one of the concerns raised by a number of sources speaking on the condition of anonymity is that it doesn't appear that these bids went out to tender.
What you mean this doesn't appear that the bills bid? It had to be in public. I'm sure this administration has declared that they're going to go to a bidding process and several different companies bid for it. And all of this played out in the media. That had to happen.
Yeah, I'd like to read from some of these articles.
Because
I want to say to you right now that I know what I read, but I have to find it to read it out loud because I don't expect anybody to just trust my words. I want to read it from the article so people could see.
And I get the article ready, and I want you to read it. But by what you're suggesting, the nation should be concerned. Not just concerned that we were left out of the discussion for a national entity. Concern about what is in the details of the negotiations, things that will never be made public, that we should know, or are we competent as Bahamian citizenry to know such information? Should we be privy to it?
Of course.
You say of course, but we ain't privy to it.
that we are not privy to it doesn't mean we shouldn't be privy to it. Please stop allowing politicians that don't know how to make public disclosure. See, stop allowing politicians that don't know how to fill out a declaration form to tell you what your constitutional obligations are.
But see, and I'm glad you used the word constitutional obligations, right? If it was a constitutional issue, we could demand things, and they would have to respond in kind. So it cannot be a constitutional issue.
It is a constitutional issue because they have to show you why you can't have access to this information. They have to show you that it's in the interest of national security. It's in the interest of good governance, right? In the interest of the public good. They have to show you that. They can't just tell you that.
And I love how you use the word they have to. They have to do nothing. And watch them.
No, pause this.
Watch them.
They have to adhere to the tenets of the Constitution. That they don't means nothing. The only thing it means is that we, the people, hated our power. We refuse to acknowledge our role in governance. We don't want to do the work. We want to demand that they do the work properly, but we don't want to do the work on our end. They have to.
Let's read the articles.
So I want to start. Let's start with this headline. The headline today in today's Tribune said grid handover for 40%. You're going to hand over the grid, you can give them 40%. They get 40% of the company for managing the grid. That's what I thought. But when we read the article, it says the government is set to hand over New Providence's electricity grid to a private company in return for a 40% ownership interest in that entity. Tribune Business can reveal. Multiple sources yesterday told this newspaper that the plans to overhaul BPL transmission and distribution network involve the creation of a new entity called Bahamas Grid Company. This will be structured as a PPP partnership, 60%. Hold on. That's the most important part.
No, I want you to stop because I have you read it again. So far, I know there's BEC, there's BPL, and you say now they're going to form a new company?
No, there are lots of new companies. I got an article on that as well. A number of new companies are appearing on the scene. And then with some research, you realize, just like Starlink Bahamas,
just appeared doing operations?
No, some element, some affiliate, some part, somebody related to that was already here doing things. It's kind of like that. This is fascinating. I'm just going to say, if you don't want to pay your cable bill this month, you don't have to. You could just read these newspapers for entertainment and enlightenment. So
there'll be three different companies now.
Right.
Go ahead, start over again.
So we're today's Tribune, grid handover for 40%. Multiple sources yesterday told this newspaper that the plans to overhaul BPL's transmission and distribution network involve the creation of a new entity called Bahamas Grid Company. Now, even that name, Bahamas Grid Company, that wasn't in any of the articles I read, is Island Grid. This will be structured as a PPP, public-private partnership, 60% majority owned by private investors. The government, which will own the remaining 40%, will gain its equity ownership interests by transferring BPL's New Providence electricity grid, which includes substations, transformers, poles, and wires, to Bahamas Grid Company. The story continues or is posted again in the business section. Now, stick a pin right there. I don't know if you remember in March the 1st in the Nassau Guardian, there was a story. Sir Franklin says his company's not involved in BPL assets takeover. Chairman of Focal, Sir Franklin Wilson, told Guardian Business yesterday that rumors his company or some new subsidiary of his consortium of companies is set to take over assets of BPL, Bahamas Power and Light, are categorically untrue. Quote, "We are not taking over any assets of BPL, so you can put an end to the rumor mill," close quotes. Let's fast forward to the 11th of June. That is Tuesday of this week, yesterday. Focal chair, BPL deal is, quote, real change, close quotes. Focal Holdings yesterday confirmed, quote, a good portion, close quotes, of the $70 million recently raised from investors will finance its power generation deal with the government. Its chairman pledging, quote, "This is real change," close quotes.
What?
Sir Franklin Wilson, the BISX-listed energy and petroleum products provider's largest shareholder, told Tribune Business that Bahamians, quote, "can take us from the fact due diligence was done," close quotes, on the private sector partners selected to execute the Davis administration's energy reform strategy, despite concerns about the seeming absence of competitive bidding. Several sources speaking on condition of anonymity questioned whether the country is getting the best possible price and deal, given that neither the generation nor the transmission and distribution contract were put out to public tender as required by procurement legislation and associated regulations. We'll stick a pin. I'm reading that to answer,
It's all
to
convoluted.
respond to your presumption or statement that the bids went out and da-da-da-da.
But I'm even more confused. Is Focal involved in the investment of money for the assets of BPL or not?
Now, listen, let's be clear on what Sir Franklin
or
said.
Is it a play on words saying, well, it's not BPL, but
Right.
it might be BEC?
Pause. This is what I want to get into. Let's be clear that in the article, Sir Franklin says his company is not involved in BPL assets takeover. He is quoted as saying, "We are not taking over any assets of BPL."
And we straighten the word BPL.
Right.
Bahamas Power
Bang.
and Light.
When we're going to go back to this article from yesterday's Tribune, Focal chair, "BPL deal is real change." Go. Sir Franklin, though, countered such criticism, the criticism by the sources speaking on condition of anonymity, questioning whether the country is getting the best possible price and deal because these contracts were not put out to public tenders required by procurement legislation and associated regulations. So Franklin, though, countered such criticism by describing all three companies selected, Focal Holdings, Bahamas Utility Company, Shell as fuel supplier, and Island Grid as, quote, "credible names," close quotes, that are all, quote, "real companies," close quotes. He told this newspaper, quote, "My bottom line position is that, without a doubt, this is real change. This is real change. Once you accept this is real change, the fact of the matter is, once you are doing it, it takes time, it takes time." I just want to stick a pin right there. Sir Franklin Wilson, it doesn't matter how many times you say out loud, "This is real change." I've read the article and nothing seems to have changed. You, sir, a representative of in the process, cannot be the arbiter or the judge of the validity of the process.
What you mean he cannot be? He is.
You can't tell, no, sir.
He can't say
could
it's a good deal?
He could say that, but he can't be
The voice of reason?
no, certainly not. He can't be the determining factor. He can't make the decision. He can't determine that. You are a representative of one of the entities involved in the process. The fisherman ain't gonna call his fish stink. He's not. He's going to tell you it's the ambiance.
So let's say that he has interest. Can I use the word interest? In one of the entities that may be interested in getting the 60%.
Sir Franklin Wilson, the BISX-listed energy and petroleum products provider's largest shareholder.
So he has interest.
He is the largest shareholder. At some point, he is referenced as chairman of an entity that is also involved in this process.
So when he said that his company is not,
Let's read the quote. "We are not taking over any assets of BPL."
okay, let's
So what we need to do is go into what exactly
is
it
BPL
is.
and what is BEC?
Well,
And what is this 40%? Is it BPL or BEC? This 40 and 60%.
no, that's a slightly separate conversation. This is speaking to, okay, when we read here and he says these are credible names, he calls the three entities, Focal, Bahamas Holdings, and it's the subsidiary Bahamas Utility Company, Shell as fuel supplier, and Island Grid. I think that the Island Grid referenced here is or has become the Bahamas Grid referenced in the article, right? Mm-hmm. And so this grid handover for 40% speaks, I think, specifically to the T&D system, transmission and distribution system.
Let me ask you another question, and forgive me for it, because I wanted you to continue. You used the word 40%. Who's getting 40%? Because the article and the headline seems to be different. The headline suggests that the
headline is ambiguous.
No. Yeah. I talk about the number.
Yeah.
The headline suggests that the entity will be getting 40%. But when you read the article, it says the entity will get 60% and the government will be getting
the 40%.
The 40%.
So
which one is it?
We can read from the article. I think it is what is said in the article, because in the news field, we give editors a little creative license with captions, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. But the article, grid handover for 40%, reads, this will be as a public-private partnership, 60% majority owned by private investors.
Say that again.
This will be structured as a public-private partnership, 60% majority owned by private investors. Now is a moment in time where I would like to refer back to the Blueprint for Change. And I'd like the listening audience, if you have a copy of it at hand, if you could go online and open it up. Can you find anywhere in the Blueprint for Change where they said that they would be selling off majority share of national assets to private entities? I don't care that they call it a public-private partnership.
It seems to be selling it off 60%. And the majority of it, 60% of it is going to be transferred.
Just tell me somewhere in the Blueprint for Change where they said that's what they're going to be doing.
But then I want to remind you that the government does not have the money to invest in BPL/BEC.
They had the money for Independence Golden Jubilee Gala.
How much money did they spend on that?
They had the money for high tea party.
How much money did they spend on that?
We don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know because they have refused to tell us. And I use the word refuse because this is now June 12th, and we are less than a month away from the 51st Independence celebration.
My concern about all of this is my pocket. It's summer, my light bill going up, and I'm concerned that they're going to be increasing my light bill. And that means someone's going to make a profit. And I would like to know, who is this person who is going to be making a profit off me, and should I be concerned?
Mr. Newry, my concern is that the lack of transparency. Sometimes you're accused of not being transparent because you put no information into the public domain. But you can also be accused of lacking transparency when you put too much information into the public domain in a way that will only confuse the reader. I see the phone line flashing, Mr. Newry. I don't know if you want to go to the call, but I can begin reading from the articles.
Let's read from the article, and then we go back to the caller right after you read from the article. Let's make sure that in the record.
So let's start with Minister outlines energy reform plan. That was in Monday's Guardian. Minister of Energy and Transport, JoBeth Colby Davis, today revealed the Davis administration's plan to reform the energy sector in the Bahamas, which includes the modernization of the electricity grid, building utility-scale solar power in the Family Islands, transforming energy generation through LNG implementation in New Providence, and introducing equity rate adjustments. Colby Davis made the announcement at the office of the Prime Minister, where she also revealed the names of the companies that the government will partner with to restructure BPL. I think at this point, I'm going to need the Prime Minister. I don't want to hear it from the Minister responsible for energy and transport. I need the Prime Minister to lay out on the table in a national address why it is that the minister responsible for energy does not reference the entity called BEC. BPL is as far as we know, is a management
That's what I thought.
entity.
I no longer understand it anymore.
And so when the minister says, reveal the names of the companies that the government will partner with to restructure BPL, you're not restructuring BPL, you're restructuring BEC. You're restructuring the generation of power, you're restructuring the transmission and distribution of power. You're enhancing the grid. Those are all BEC things. Where is the legislation? Is it in I don't think it's the 2015 Electricity Act. Is it in the new act, in the 2024 Electricity Act, where you do away with BEC and you transfer all of the assets of BEC into BPL? Is that why Sir Franklin Wilson could get up and say so candidly that it's categorically untrue? They're not taking over any of BPL's assets? Because you're not. As far as we know, BPL is a management entity. They have
no assets.
I mean, you taking over you could take over the board. Take over the board. Yeah. Just do that. Take over the board.
Let's quickly go to this caller, then we'll continue reading, right? Producer Patch to call it through. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear us?
Yes, and good morning, CA, and good morning, Aaron.
Morning.
CA, you asked the question whether should we be concerned about where the money goes. And according to Mr. Michael Halkitis, he said, we shouldn't be concerned about how much money the government or whatever the government spend on the 50th anniversary, because at the end of the day, small businesses and all of those other people benefit, and so the money stays right here. So, CA, to answer your question, no. The money is going to Sir Franklin and all of those shareholders, so the money, we don't have to know anything. We just got to, whatever they do, we just have to sit down, Aaron, and because, Aaron, you didn't vote, Aaron, you decided
I did vote.
Spoil the ballot.
I did vote, and I spoiled my ballot.
Spoiled your ballot,
that is valid.
Aaron, is your voice.
I went to the booth. I went into the booth, and I voted, and I used my voice. What did you use your voice to do, cousin?
I used my voice.
You don't have to talk about it on the radio.
I marked my X for the person of my choice in there, who I believe will stand up for me.
I marked my X for my person of choice, too. It just turns out that they didn't pay their $400. They still could do a more effective job than those said who did, though.
Yeah, but Aaron, listen here. This is a conundrum. I asked Mr. Lang yesterday whether all the details of this would have to be laid out in Parliament, and he said not necessarily so. So I don't know. I mean, like you said, BPL.
Well, hold on. You mean Mr. Pintard, the leader of the Royal Opposition?
Who said Mr. Lang?
Lang. Okay.
Yeah,
my bad.
So we don't. Like you said, BPL is just a management company that was formed under the PLP.
It is until they show us the legislation that shifted it, right? I could be corrected, I could be wrong, but I would like to see the provisions in law that change the nature of the entities.
Yeah, but so like I want to know, like, when we are transferring these so-called this 60% over to this new this PPI, and are we creating another entity within BPL?
Seems so.
Within BPL and giving it a new name, or what?
No, these are private. These are private companies, so no, it's it lacks clarity. Continue to read through these articles to see if we could establish some clarity on the matter.
Okay.
I'm going to continue reading from the article Minister outlined.
Okay, have a good day.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for calling. Thank you so much for calling. We're going to continue reading. Colby Davis made the announcement at the Office of the Prime Minister, where she also revealed the names of the companies that the government will partner with to restructure BPL. Colby Davis said the reform plan has 5 components, the first of which is to address renewable energy production in the Family Islands. Quote, I'm pleased to share that the recommended IPP, that's Independent Power Producer, for Abaco is Verdant and Consus. Andrus is Providence Advisors. Eleuthera is Verdant and Consus. Exuma is INTI Corporation and Osprey Construction. And Long Island, San Salvador, and the Berry Islands is Wilcom Technologies and Roswall Incorporation. The second reform will see the expansion of solar projects on New Providence, according to Colby Davis. She said approximately 70 megawatts of solar power and 35 megawatts of battery energy storage systems will be integrated into the existing grid. Quote, I am pleased to share that direct power producers for New Providence are Eco Energy, INTI, and Compass.
I will stop right there. I don't know if you know, Aaron, that at the sports stadium, there are solar panels. You know where you get your car license?
Yeah.
Big solar panels. It's a big thing. We brag about it, right?
Yeah, they had opening ceremony and
Yes.
everything, refreshments.
And someone can call and correct me. But I remember during an interview, I was told that it was not tied into the grid. We don't get that power back. I mean, whatever solar energy we get, it does not feed back into the main grid. Has that changed?
No, in fact, in the Prime Minister's contributions, one of the reasons he puts on the table as he pleads with us to understand why we need to raise $1 billion is that for this reform to be effective, we can't just begin to add solar assets. Those solar assets are not as effective as they could be because they can't be tied back into the grid.
So why do we have it?
Hold on, because of the nature of the grid. So that's why.
So hold on.
Hold on, but that's why there's also an element of this reform that's about
I want to talk about the current grid. That solar panel, is it tied to anything?
I think it may be tied to car charging stations. You know,
You pass there all the time. You ever see any car parked there? I mean, I don't know who cars be parked there, but you ever see any car parked there? Because I know every government entity have their own charging port in front there. I've never, I mean, it could be happening while I sleeping, but I've never seen any car parked there. So where that energy going? Where's that energy go? What is that energy being absorbed for? Who's benefiting from that at this present time?
I have no idea. It may just be
Decoration?
at this point.
Just decoration?
At this point.
And no bohemian concern? And
All
then
right.
you hear all these big speeches again?
So
and we smile?
the second reform is the expansion of solar projects on New Providence, right? The third reform, Davis Colby said, adding that the power purchase agreements are being negotiated. Bang. The modernization of the electricity grid and transmission and distribution network for New Providence through a partnership between BPL and Island Grid is the third reform in the government's energy plan, necessitated by several critical factors. Quote, to augment its generation needs in New Providence and Family Islands. BPL relies on 145 megawatts of rental generation between New Providence and the Family Island, costing about $42 million annually. BPL's transmission and distribution infrastructure is in desperate need of upgrades, as much of it dates to the 1980s and early 1990s, with few enhancements to reduce significant system losses. She said the partnership with Island Grid will extend the infrastructure capabilities beyond what BPL alone can do by bringing in a generation and T&D expert to pursue much needed repairs. The fourth reform calls for the transformation of energy generation through LNG.
What does that mean again? Exactly. We're going to be running LNG lines or some sort? I mean, it sounds good, but no one has given me details.
There are details.
So what is it?
Well, first of all, Mr. Newry, it's going to be a little difficult. Like I said, I got 12 pages of articles. It's going to be a little difficult just to segue to that specific point. But I think that the LNG is going to be at Blue Hills. It's going to be like central because in one of the articles, I think it's Sir Franklin Wilson, he raises concerns about the placement of the LNG entities. And I think they asked why wouldn't it be set up where they're storing the LNG. Like I said, there are tons of articles. Let me just go through the reforms and then we're going to try and transition to that one. Again, the fourth reform calls for the transformation of energy generation through LNG implementation in New Providence By integrating LNG, we aim to reduce overall energy costs, enhance the efficiency of our generation assets, and minimize environmental impacts. This initiative introduces LNG as a cleaner alternative to heavy fuel oil and automotive diesel. By 2026, we will construct a state-of-the-art 177 megawatt combined cycle LNG plant at the Blue Hills Power Station. This innovative facility will feature 4 natural gas units paired with 2 steam turbines. Bang. So the LNG unit will be at Blue Hills Power Station. Finally, the minister said the government will also introduce a new equity rate adjustment beginning next month. Colby said this will make bills more affordable for many families. Quote, all residential consumers with low and moderate electricity usage will benefit. The tariff for the first 0 to 200 kilowatt hours will be reduced to 0, she explained. The upper bands will stay the same, but even if you are a resident with a bill of around 600 kilowatt hours, you will still benefit from the rate of your first 200 kilowatt hours being reduced to 0. Note that everyone will still have to pay for the fuel charge for every unit they consume. So those are the 5 reforms. I think where we see FOCAL and its BUC, Bahamas Utility Company, is in reform number 4 with LNG, with Shell providing the LNG, and we're going to get back into the...
It just seems as if this was one company bid on all of this, and that one company had access to whoever doing all the negotiations.
Let's go back to the article. Focal chair BPL deal is.
But I want to mention before you get, I can let you read. Forgive me, right? I want to know if you know what is the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection.
Yeah, that's the entity you have to go to if you plan in anything. If you plan to build anything, you got to go to DEPP.
You know who's in charge of the solar panels by the driver's license place?
It's by the stadium?
The stadium?
No. Who?
The Department of Environmental Planning and Protection. You're trying to get an interview with them to ask about that same solar panel, and they ain't reach yet. I mean, you call and ask again and again and again, and nobody has been sent.
Listen,
so just like say, hey, is it tied into anything? Is it just decoration?
Right.
Simple question.
I just want to remind people that y'all could speak on the condition of anonymity, you know. You could speak on the condition of anonymity.
Send a text in or something? Send a text in?
No, don't send in a text.
You can't send a text in?
Buy a burner phone or something. But at some point, the technocrats have to talk. At some point, people have to talk. They have to be willing to talk to the media about the people's business. How could there be so much secrecy and lack of transparency about the people's business?
There's a lot of secrecy in this government. Let's go to the caller first and then let you continue reading there, Aaron. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear us?
Yes, good morning to you. Good morning, Ms. Green.
Morning.
I respect the last caller, but I mean, I don't understand how you could expect that voting for someone could really change things, you know what I mean? I mean, there's no one really out there who really has proven themselves to say that they're going to make a true difference. I mean, I don't get him at that part, but I mean, like I said, I respect him in his views, but that part, I don't get him on that. But, Ms. Green and Mr. Newry, I think is we need to start to, like I said before, we need to try to get certain things to be implemented into government, man. You know what I mean? So we could have reforms. Like, one of the things that we need to push for is we need to push that they make international contributions to political parties to be illegal. You know, because I don't understand how in the world that could be something that's possible. How could they have international donors donating to political parties? I mean, that is a clear case, in my opinion, of a quid pro quo. You know what I mean? Because people from out there, what interest they have in giving money to people here? What interest they have in what goes on down here? Other than they would be investing in something that they have some type of payback for.
Or caller, at the very least, if you're going to allow things like that to happen, then you have to have real mechanisms that manage conflicts of interest. And you have to use the mechanisms that have been laid out for you, For instance, like the Public Disclosure Act, you have to that has to be used if you're going to allow things like foreign entity donations to political parties. You still there, caller? We must have lost the caller. Of course, we need to do, everybody knows we need to do something. But when you say push for reforms, we have to organize. You have to organize and create entities and structures that can do the things you think need to be done.
Area of 2. We're going to take this short commercial break, and as soon as we come back on the other side, we go straight to the callers and help them do their 2 cents.
And then we read from this
And then we
article and
scroll back to
figure
the
out
article.
where Focall and Bahamas Utility Company figures in.
Because they seem to have inside, no, I can't say inside trading thing, right? No, I won't say that.
I would just say that Sir Franklin Wilson is very candid in these articles.
Or have insight
Until he isn't.
No, he just have insight.
Yeah, no, I just saying, because the article says, like, he wasn't. Anyway, he isn't.
He's not involved.
He's very candid until he isn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Guardian Radio AM with CA Newry. Of course, Aaron Green is with me. This is Man Down, Mashup Wednesday, when we analyze the news. And we analyzing this BPL deal, or is it a BEC deal? I'm not sure who we dealing with right now. We'll be right back.
For printing services, look no further. Let Printmasters bring your masterpiece to life. We stand by our quality products that is second to none. Our affordable pricing and friendly, efficient staff makes Printmasters the ultimate choice for all your printing needs. We can deliver any type of printing services, from banners to booklets to business cards. You name it, we can print it.
Let Printmasters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
We all know infrastructure is decades old. It is breaking down, it is too expensive, and it cannot transmit clean energy. Small changes aren't enough. We are taking it all on. Upgrading and modernizing the grid, solar power, major energy reform. That's how we get to lower prices and more reliable electricity. It will not happen overnight, but it will be game-changing.
Go to newenergyera.gov.bs to learn more.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's gonna be a hot summer. Get ready for the NACAC Athletics 3rd Annual New Life Invitational as the race to Paris continues. Join us on Sunday, June 16th at the original Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium as Team Bahamas and over 170 international track and field athletes from over 18 countries compete for another chance to qualify for the Paris Olympics. Gates open at 5 p.m. Races start at 6 p.m. Don't miss the exciting individual races and relays from world champions and Olympians. Watch the epic showdowns between countries from around the world like Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, the United States, Canada, Liberia, and our very own Team Bahamas as they all battle in one of their last chances. Buy your tickets today at nacacparis.com or NACACparis.com. That's the New Life Invitational, Sunday, June 16th. It's gonna be hot. You don't want to miss it.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio AM with CA Newry. And of course, Aaron Green is with me. Aaron, this whole thing reminds me of when you're trying to wash your clothes. You're trying to get the place better. You're trying to get your clothes clean and something that you can wear. But what happened is you didn't put the clothes on the line. You didn't air it out to the public to see. And the clothes remain in the basket and it's wet and damp. And the whole thing's starting to smell frowsy. I smelling something frowsy, man. And I don't like it.
In July 27th, the Nassau Guardian has an article where they quote the Prime Minister as saying something is, quote, rotten, close quotes, at Bahamas Power and Light. 27th of July 2023, Nassau Guardian. The headline is PM, the smell is rotten at BPL.
See, coincidentally, I think something's smelling. Anyway, that's just me. I think more behemoths need to be critical and say, Mr. Prime Minister,
tell us more. What you were smelling? What you were smelling? Tell us more about it, please.
Let's go to the call lines now. Go ahead, caller.
You.
Morning, sir.
I know
Yeah, I know you guys are used to the word of like corruption being attached to dishonesty, fraudulent misconduct, manipulating, subversion.
But yeah, let's don't use the word corruption today, though.
No.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying that's how you use the word. For me, in the world of data and information, it is a process when the data or information becomes erroneous or debased, unfit for its purpose, alteration or introduction of errors. So we're talking about information and data. The information that's been coming out of the government is erroneous, debased, and represents a sense of corrupt for the use for us to make a determination as to what is done. The problem is that the truth needs no explanation. And this government for weeks has been trying to explain to us through one way or the other whatever it is they're saying or whatever it is they're doing. If the truth needs no explanation and time is spent explaining, is it then the truth?
Mm-hmm.
See, so, what we have is a manipulation of an inept, incapable, and competent group of individuals somehow seeking to satisfy maybe friends, families, and lovers, or something else. There is a simple solution for this process. There's no need for us to hide. What we have is we're moving. This is more, believe it or not, important than the land you're standing on. And that's how important this is for the 21st century. That's only if we will be in the 21st century. Mind you, the rest of the world has been there for 24 years, or 23 at least. Only if we intend to move into the 21st century, even if we do so in the 22nd century, is energy is 96% dependency. The economy can grow and expand. And so it seems to me that a small group of people, for whatever purpose, is trying to capture the Bahamas, while at the same time pointing the fingers at different people, pointing back and everything else, as supposed to discuss in the future. And I'm just going to say this. You're not going to get the truth of the Progressive Liberal Party. And you ask why. The failure and the appearance of corruption, why we can always have it? It's their nature. You get a dog, expect it to bark.
But CA,
thank you very much, CA.
I'd accept that in any other issue.
I don't appreciate the characterization of my party.
I mean, I wasn't going to say that, but I was going to say is that this is a non-partisan issue. Successive, both PLP and FNM, I think, are complicit. I don't know if we could say equally complicit, but they are.
Complicit, for sure.
Yes.
We have another caller here, but thank God we have Urka, who's going to be overlooking this, because I'm concerned. I mean, I'm so terrified that they can charge me arm leg, but we have Urka.
Yeah, as soon as this, what Urka tell me.
Anyway, let's go. Let's go to the caller. Go ahead, caller. Of course, we have Urka. Call you there? Call girl once. Call girl twice.
Sorry
for that caller. You can call back.
You want to know what Urka told me?
Yeah, man. Or at least how they going to be monitoring this new entity who could be charged this arm and leg.
Don't worry, I don't have a personal relationship with Urka. They told me through the Tribune, in today's Tribune business section, Urka, no involvement in new BPL rate structure. Let me repeat that.
What you mean no involvement?
Urka, apostrophe, no involvement.
But that's what Urka
apostrophe
was designed
in new BPL
for.
rate structure.
And that's what Urka mandate is, though.
You mean the Utilities Regulation and Competition Authority?
They regulate utilities.
Yeah. The Bahamas Energy Industry Regulator yesterday said it had, quote, no involvement, close quote, in developing Bahamas Power and Light's BPL new rate structure that takes effect from July 1st. Juan McCartney, the Urka Corporate and Consumer Relations
That's where one
Chief.
Is. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Told Tribune Business that the newly passed Electricity Act 2024 gives JoBeth Colby Davis, Minister of Energy and Transport, the legal authority to set BPL's tariffs without reference to the regulator for 3 years.
Madness. Stop that, man. I think he misspoke. Who said that? This one who said that?
Quote. That's what the article says. Quote. We're going to hear from Mr. McCartney. It's a quotation.
Mm-hmm.
Urka didn't have any involvement in it, he affirmed. Quote. It's Section 38, subsection 9 in the new Electricity Act. The minister has the power for 3 years to set specific tariffs. That's under that power. is how she's doing it. Mr. McCartney said he understood Mrs. Colby Davis either has to issue an order, table them in the House of Assembly, or publish the new tariffs via the government's gazettes. I would like to stick a pin right there and say any politician that allows these tariffs to be gazetted before the public disclosures are gazetted, they can no longer sit in Rawson Square for Junkanoo.
We ain't gonna never get no public disclosures anymore in the Bahamas, Aaron. Stop asking for it.
So what you mean to tell me is that when Kingsley Smith, the former chief passport officer, handed in his declaration form and they indicate no bank account, no account, but he had $200,000 in securities. You're saying that when he did that and nobody challenged it, that was a sign that nobody who's responsible or has an obligation to see that it's done cares? That's what you're telling me?
The declaration era is over.
No. The Constitution lives. This is the only thing we can rob out. You might as well call me a grouper because
Yes. Let's go to the callers and you continue reading.
Yes,
there.
sir.
Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Caller going once. Caller going twice. Okay, go ahead, Aaron.
Quote, the minister has the power to do it for 3 years, he added. Quote, BPL cannot do it without it being approved. When BPL wants to set or change its rates, it needs IRCA's approval. The minister doesn't. She has the power to do it for 3 years. It was changed, close quotes.
My Lord.
The end of that 3-year period marks when IRCA must review BPL's tariff submission. Mr. McCartney said the state-owned energy monopoly has to submit its application within 2.5 years to give IRCA time to complete its analysis. The story continues to page B19, but I see your phone.
Yeah, let me go to the caller.
Light up.
They've been calling for a while. Producer, pass the caller through for me, please. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so I wasn't finished making my little point there, but again, another call, Seattle, I don't understand how come Seattle could just talk about the PLP being a party corrupt, when basically all of our current politicians basically come with the PLP, you know what I mean? The whole style of political gaming is the same, nothing changed from party to party. It doesn't change. But what I wanted to say too is that if there's not a department in the law enforcement and the police department that is responsible for government corruption or looking over government officials and something with the best interest of the payment people.
No, however, the Ombudsman Act was passed. The Ombudsman's Act, I think, was passed recently. I have to refer to Organization for Responsible Government's contributions in the media because they addressed that a few weeks ago.
Yes, ma'am, because they need, in a sense, they're creating all type of different divisions of the police department. They need to put some type of department like that inside the police because this outright games and stuff that the politicians play is no joke. Because we have to understand that what they are dealing with is the future generations of the people, and you know what I mean. And see that's your children and their children's children, etc. Man, we can't allow these individuals to be so free to do these things open. We must demand that there be laws put in place on the screen.
Cousin, demanding is obviously not sufficient. What y'all say the good book say? Faith without works is dead. You need to organize and strategize.
Yes, ma'am. Because when they were selling Batelco, when they was talking about the petition that I tried to circulate to see if I could stop it. So I understand that it's not just demanding. Like you have to actually put things. You know what I mean? And that's why I was demanding that one of the things that we need to put forward is that campaign reform thing with the international stuff. Like we need to put the pen to paper, and we need to present these documents, and we need to demand that these things are passed in a timely period when they are presented to them. But like I said, the actions of our political leaders, we can no longer allow them to be doing what they're doing so openly. Something has to be done about it. It's criminal. It's criminal. You know what I mean? So like I say, so if we care about the future generations, it's time for us to stand up right now and revoice all these things, man. You know, the kind of way, because something has to change, man, because this can't continue like this. Other than that, we truly are conks. But y'all have a nice day, Mr. Green, and see a nice show all the time.
Good.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We definitely have to expand on this conversation.
Yeah, two things. The caller, C. Allen tried, he went to great pains to not call the government corrupt. I won't put that on there. He made sure to not call the government corrupt. But see, you think he mean the same police force the police officer is a part of who say he got hit by a car being driven by a politician, a cabinet minister. Do you mean that police force is who should have a unit to investigate politicians and government?
That same police force where the officer went into the hospital and nobody visited him, no commissioner, no union man, and the police association said, yes, we know that he's in hospital. By the commissioner that there was no evidence that nobody was hit, even though he was out on leave for an accident.
Yeah, that one.
That same one.
Let's go back to the article, IRCA, no involvement in new BPL rate structure. Dwayne Sands, the Free National Movement's chairman, was among those to yesterday question IRCA's involvement in the equity rate adjustment tariff structure unveiled on Monday, and which is due to take effect from July 1st. The Electricity Act initially stipulated that BPL and other electricity providers can charge different tariffs and prices to different groups of customers for a transition period of 3 years without approval from IRCA. After concerns were raised, the government amended that provision to, quote, ensure that IRCA's continued role in approving tariff changes under Section 38.8 remains steadfast and unadulterated, close quotes. Mrs. Colby Davis said at the time, adding, quote, some have said that IRCA is being cut out as regulator, particularly regarding the approval of tariffs. This is not the case, close quotes. I want to make a suggestion.
I'm confused.
It's not too late to throw the whole Davis administration in the garbage.
I'm confused.
I know it's risky. We're going to have to put Glennis in there with them because it's the whole administration that has to
Aaron,
go.
I confused. Either
IRCA is or they aren't.
They aren't. And either the minister is saying truth, either Warren McCartney from IRCA is saying truthfulness, but someone confused.
Yeah. It's me. Someone is me. I'm confused. I'm going to continue reading.
Do you have time for this next caller? This will be the last one and then you finish reading?
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's make
course,
it, boy. Calls just going up, light up all like crazy. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, good morning, Ms. Green. Good morning, Ms. Newry.
Make it quick. Everyone reads some more.
Warren McCartney wouldn't be confused, but as it relates to the police force, I was reading a recent article in the coroner's inquest of the last two-beat shooting concerning a one-on-one shooting somewhere in Paramount Gardens. But I was upset because the Kangaroo system hasn't changed. The ballistics report was given by the police force, and everything else is given by the police force. So that's where we're headed. It's a state of hopelessness.
Okay, let's go to the next caller quickly there, producer. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah. You can't throw Glennis in the garbage. Throw all the rest of them in the garbage bin, right? All they is garbage juice politically, right? Throw them suckers away, man.
The language is too strong.
Oh, God.
You almost caused me.
Go ahead. Let's go just 4 minutes for some reading, man.
All right, let's continue from this article in today's paper, IRCA no involvement in new BPL rate structure. Again, after concerns were raised, the government amended that provision to, quote, ensure that IRCA's continued role in approving tariff changes under Section 38.8 remains steadfast and unadulterated, close quotes. Mrs. Colby Davis said at the time, adding, quote, some have said that IRCA is being cut out as regulator, particularly regarding the approval of tariffs. This is not the case, close quotes. Dr. Sands yesterday suggested that the equity rate adjustment move showed IRCA is, quote, in or out. It certainly doesn't appear as if IRCA is part of the equation now, close quotes.
Aaron, it seems as IRCA is out. I don't care what the minister say. It seems like IRCA is out.
Listen, just as we go, I want to say something. I want to send a shout out to all the hardworking security officers that also voluntarily work as concierge staff at some of our country's largest businesses and entities and state-owned entities, including PMH. I want to say good morning to the security at PMH.
And I just say that the union, I'm not sure what, BPL union or BEC union, whatever union is at the place.
BEW and BEMU, that's the workers and the managers union.
They just watch it.
Security guards need a union too.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been Guardian Radio AM. We'll take this up again next week and try and analyze what's happening at BPL.
Guess.
Or BEC. I'm not sure what is there. Anyway, it's Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Newry. Thank you very much again, Aaron Green. Have a wonderful day.
I had a power outage. I know that's there. What, 2